AITA for showing no sympathy for my brother and my ex-wife after the loss of their baby and for refusing to let my parents talk to me about it.
Estás de broma!
Hello, welcome back to the segment where we read AITA Reddit stories and we try to decide who the red flag folks in the story are. So I just moved from Arkansas, which is just a nothing state filled with a lot of nothing, to Barcelona. And while it's been at times very emotional and just draining and exhausting and scary, right now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling zen. I have been out in the sun, so I'm feeling good.
But today we're going to put that to the test. We're going to do a challenge, if you will. We're going to read 4 Reddit stories from the AITA subreddit and see if I can refrain from completely losing my mind. So,
AITA for refusing to let my girlfriend bring her dead dog's ashes on vacation.
motherfucker.
My girlfriend, 29 female, and I, 28 male, have been together for 4 months. She had a dog that died a few months before we met. I have only ever spent the night at her place. I live with my sister and her 2 kids, so it's a little chaotic at my place. Girlfriend has a small 2 to 3 inches tall urn on her bedside table with the dog's ashes. Before she turns off her lamp to go to sleep, she always gives it a little tap on the top and says good night, as though she is talking to the dog. I think it's weird, but I have never said anything. We were supposed to go away for the weekend. On Friday, I was watching her pack and noticed she took the urn and put it in the top pocket of her backpack. I asked what she was doing. She said she didn't want to leave the dog behind. I told her she was not allowed to bring the urn in, as it made me very uncomfortable. I didn't want to see it any time we returned to our hotel room. I didn't want her talking to her dead dog after we've had fur, i.e. before we go to sleep. I have to bleep myself because YouTube is mean to me with words like that. It's weird, and frankly, she's been mourning this dog for too long.
Barcelona!
She didn't argue. She simply started to unpack her bag. She told me to have fun on the weekend getaway as she would not be coming. I asked if she was seriously choosing a dog's ashes over me. She said she was choosing herself over me, as I could have spoken to her with kindness and empathy, but didn't. She also said I didn't get to dictate how long she's allowed to grieve. Then she asked me to leave. Something tells me that wasn't the first time they've talked about this. Alright. She hasn't replied to my text. I think she's overreacting. My sister said she can see both of our sides. Am I the asshole for thinking my girlfriend is weird for being so attached to her dead dog's ashes?
Okay, you've clearly never experienced grief from loss because there's no timeline for grief. Yes, it can lose some intensity over time, but it never fully dies. It just keeps changing shape so that you can't kill it. It's very creative. It just keeps finding new ways to make you hurt over and over and over again, just as you close another wound up. Grief is basically like a depressing, annoying chameleon that won't stop licking your neck, and you just have to get used to it. Just
A couple of edits here. Edit number 1, the hotel was non-refundable and only a 3-hour drive, so I went on the trip without her. Edit number 2, she started seeing a psychologist around the same time we started dating. She hasn't told me any specifics, but she said the trauma of suddenly losing her dog brought to the surface other trauma in her past. This is why I think she's been mourning for too long. Too long, huh? She's still attached to the dog even after seeing a professional on a regular basis for several months.
the hole you are digging right now is 4 feet wide and 6 feet deep.
Okay, it looks like there's a couple updates here, but real quick I want to mention, so I've talked about this before, but when COVID hit, I was a small business owner. When it hit, I pretty much lost over half of my business overnight. Suddenly I couldn't pay bills and I was really stressed and just very depressed. And I leaned on my dogs, Howie and Luna, to get over it and to get me through it because it's all I had. I lived by myself. I didn't get to see my family every day. So I had my dogs. It got to the point where they were able to recognize when I was upset and crying or just even upset or down, and they would curl up in my lap or just give extra attention. And that is so valuable when you're going through something. It's like you form a connection with that dog or pet you didn't even know was possible to have with another pet. And it's so critical. And I think that's why she's feeling what she's feeling, because she clearly went through something, and I'm sure she leaned on her dog to get her through it. So when you lose a dog like that, that's helped you get through something horrible, I promise you the pain of losing that dog doesn't leave. It doesn't, ever. And I bet that's one of the reasons why she left you, because a dog heard her better than you did. And I bet that wasn't the first sign you gave her either. The fact that she just calmly walked out and didn't even really explain much, it tells me this was a final straw situation. So, Alright, here's the update. Update, and I'm sure this will make a lot of you happy. I get it. I'm an asshole. I texted my girlfriend to say I'm sorry for how I spoke to her and for dismissing her feelings. I was wrong. I also said I would like to apologize in person and offered to bring over her favorite takeout. She said, all good. Don't worry about an in-person apology. I gathered the things you've left at my house. Let me know when you would like to come pick them up. I'm hoping she will still hear me out when I go to her place. It doesn't sound like it. Your shit's in the yard. Your shit's in the yard. Final update. I shared this post with her thinking it might help her see I was in the wrong and I'm owning it, and maybe it would open the door to a discussion. That blew up in my face. I probably should have deleted some of the questionable comments I made in this thread. She texted to say, your things are now in a garbage bag on the porch. Pick them up sooner than later so they aren't stolen. Goodbye. Please respect my wishes and don't text me anymore. Well, yeah, it would make it worse, because then it just seems like you just owned up to it just to show her, just so she would not leave. So, duh. Anyway, verdict, you're the a-hole. Obviously. AITA for telling our parents my brother had a child outside of his marriage. For years, my brother has been trying to go into business with my husband. It hasn't worked out for various reasons, but he finally had an idea that my husband thought would be successful. The thing is, before my husband goes into business with anyone, he does an extensive background check on them. I'm not sure if he made my brother aware he was going to do a check or not, but it's how he found out that my brother has a daughter outside of his marriage.
Oh, my brother in Christ! Nope!
I had no idea this child existed, and my husband warned me I shouldn't say anything, but I couldn't just not tell my parents, so I told them a few days ago. Why couldn't you? You're an adult. You can stop words and things from falling out of your mouth. They were as shocked as me, as they also had no idea she existed, and they immediately confronted my brother about it. Turns out his wife is fully aware, but said she would leave if he tried to include his daughter in the family, which is why neither one of them told any of us about her. My parents want to meet her and include her in our family, but my sister-in-law is threatening to leave if that happens, so my brother won't give them her mother's contact information.
What is this? A soap opera?
They want my husband to find out for them, but he's refusing to get involved, so everything's a shit show right now. I personally want to meet my niece, so I've told my husband if he doesn't give me the information, I'll ask the friend he uses for background checks myself, which has caused multiple fights between us. Yeah.
Quit meddling in their affairs! Yay!
My brother hates me right now and is blaming me for his potential divorce, but I don't think it's fair, as I didn't know my parents would immediately confront him. I asked them not to. AITA. Okay, Jesus Christ, this one is messy, so let's break it down. Now, I don't have all of the facts here. We don't. I'm just kind of going off what is being said, and there's potential for some speculation here. There might be some things I haven't considered yet, but these are my initial thoughts. The original poster's husband. Family secrets aren't usually found in background checks, like basic business background checks, unless there's like some kind of legal paper trail here. Like if there's, custody arrangement at a paternity suit, if he has to go to court for like child support or something, I don't know, but like that's rare. So this feels weird. And the brother might not have told him that he was doing a background check. So that's even weirder. And then the brother flat out sucks because obviously he had an affair that resulted in a child. There's that. The wife, she of course has every right to be upset over the affair. Obviously, that level of, I think, betrayal is just horribly traumatic. But blocking a child from seeing their own father and family, I just think that's incredibly damaging to a kid. Even if that child has a loving family right now and may not want to know their dad at the moment, that could change. It's a young child. They change their minds all the time. I was playing video games with my girlfriend's teenage son the other day, and we were talking about playing a horror game or something. And I was like, what do you think about this game? And he was like, I don't like horror games. I was like, I just saw you last week playing a horror game. And he was like, I don't like him anymore. They're going to change their mind, and they should have the opportunity to change their mind. One day this child is going to know that it was born from an affair, and then they're going to know that their father refuses to be in their life, and they're also going to essentially be told, hey, you were not planned for, you were not wanted, and you are still not wanted now. And for a child to hear that, that's enough to ruin somebody, and it's enough for that person to ruin other people as they grow up. and become adults. The child should be able to see their father, not to just appease the father, but for the kid. Now, the parents, I think they have good reason to want to know this child, of course, but I think they're pushing the matter too hard. I think this is a situation that's very, very complicated, and it takes some time and tact to be able to move forward with it. I don't think you should be immediately forceful and just forcing yourself into something that's not really 100% your business. And then the original poster, you immediately told your parents. And you said that you just couldn't help it, but yeah, you could. You're an adult. You have the ability to zip your lid and just keep quiet on it, and then at least talk to your brother first and confirm the situation before you start spilling all of these secrets. But no, you had to blabber. You didn't consider his wife's feelings. You didn't consider the potential damage that this could cause. You were just, it feels like you were ready to spill some tea. That's really what it feels like. So verdict, everyone might suck, but the original poster, you definitely suck. This video is sponsored by PDS Debt. So I've been working for myself full-time for 8 years now, and before I was making videos full-time, I ran a marketing business for several years. When COVID hit, a lot of the local businesses that I worked with had a lot of uncertainty about what was going on, and they didn't know when they would be able to start back up again, when they would become profitable again. So at that point, I just became an expense. So I lost about half of my clients in about a span of 2 weeks. It created a world of debt that I had never experienced in my life. I took out so many loans, I couldn't pay bills. It was a mess. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And I wish I had contacted a company like PDS Debt, because this is their specialty. They help lighten the load of the stress that you're feeling and give you customized solutions for credit card, personal loan, and medical debt. And there's no minimum credit score required either. Whether your credit is bad or fair, it doesn't matter. They're here to help you save more money, get out of debt faster, and put more money right where it belongs, in your savings account. Don't do this stuff alone like I did. Take care of your debt now before it just piles up even higher. Head to pdsdebt.com/Dustin Poynter and get your free debt assessment. It only takes 30 seconds. Visit pdsdebt.com/Dustin Poynter. AITA for staying in a hotel while my friend was trapped overnight inside the airport.
Okay, my mind's already made up.
Sometimes the whole story is in the title, you know? Sometimes it's just one sentence, that's all you need. But I'll entertain it. Let's read this. My best friend and I, 20 female, recently went on a trip to the UK. I actually have a UK passport since my dad is British, but my friend has to get a UK visa. We were supposed to take 2 flights, one that would arrive in France and a connecting flight that would fly to the UK. However, the second flight ended up being canceled. The next flight wasn't until 2 p.m. the next day, so we would have to wait around 17 hours. The passengers were allowed to stay in nearby hotels for free. However, this didn't apply to people like my friend, who wasn't legally allowed to leave the airport because she didn't have a visa for Europe. Instead, she had to stay within a specific area of the airport that had these bright ceiling lights that would stay on 24/7. There was construction nearby, so there was this extremely loud drilling noise every so often. All the available seats were taken by other passengers, so my friend had to sleep on the floor. Plus, earlier that day, water got spilled on her phone chargers, and her phone was only on 40%. Jesus. I had the option to stay with her, but I chose to go to the hotel instead.
Where'd you stay? The Ditch Carlton? Huh? Well, your friend stayed at the Discomfort Inn. So think about that for a second.
She was furious with me, accusing me of being a fake friend. She told me she was scared of being alone in a creepy unknown place and wanted me there to comfort her, and I assured her that I'll be back by the morning. She said I was acting selfish for not even spending one night with her, but I hadn't gotten any sleep in over 24 hours, and I didn't see why both of us had to suffer. AITA.
Don't you know what Delta stands for? Don't ever leave the airport. Hey, that acronym isn't really related to this situation. Well, it seems very related to me.
Okay, so you left your 20-year-old female friend alone in an unfamiliar place, in another country, with a dying phone and no charger, exhausted and scared, to stay in a hotel because you didn't want to temporarily suffer as well. Okay, I have a question. Just who do you, what do you think that you are fucking doing? That would be my question. You know, I'll give you a bit of a leeway here. You're a young college kid. I know I've made mistakes like this at your age. I get like probably maybe not to this degree. I don't know, but it's part of growing up. But this is a really terrible thing to do to a friend, and I really hope this ends up being a valuable life lesson for you. Verdict: you're the a-hole. AITA for showing no sympathy for my brother and my ex-wife after the loss of their baby and for refusing to let my parents talk to me about it.
I'm more confused than a fart in a fan factory. What?
Okay, I feel like I gotta stretch. I feel like I need to do some downward facing dog or like some yoga stuff to get the pre-stress out. Here we go. I'm getting divorced from my wife, and I'll call her my wife in the post for clarity. Of a decade. We have 3 kids together, 2 school-aged and 1 preschool-aged kid. The last 2 years of our marriage were rough and I had no idea why. She pretended things were all good when talking to me, but complained about me to her family and friends nonstop. When I told her she could talk to me, she was saying her family and friends were just trying to stir some shit, and she wouldn't say I was lazy and ignored her, which was a lot of what I was told. She said we'd get back to normal once all 3 kids were in school and we had more time for us.
Believe nothing from a tongue of a serpent.
Then I found out she was having an affair with my brother.
2 serpents.
I found out via his ex-girlfriend, who sent a photo of them kissing outside my brother's place. He broke up with her before the affair was revealed, but he said a lot of shit about her and how she was paranoid and didn't trust him, and she was proven to be right. When my wife said she was pregnant, I knew the baby was my brother's and there was zero way for me to be the father. She tried to tell everyone she didn't know, but the 3 of us knew. She knew we hadn't had sex in years. She was using the baby to try and make me more agreeable, but I told her our marriage was over and I filed for divorce. She moved in with my brother and tried to take the kids, but I stopped her because he lives 2.5 hours away and our school-age kids were not going to be able to make a 3-hour drive each way to school. Temporary custody was granted to me, with visitation being granted to her. My parents were shocked and angry at my brother when I told them. He tried giving me shit for making them go after him and her when she was pregnant. I muted him because I didn't want to hear the BS, but I also wanted to make sure everything in the divorce and custody went smoothly, and I hope to maintain primary custody, so I'll need to show they are better off with me. My parents did end up accepting them as a couple. Ugh. I said I could understand them not giving up a child and grandchild, but I don't want to hear about them. They said they respected this. A few weeks ago, my wife had a stillborn baby. She and my brother blamed me for all the stress I put her under. She said being apart from our kids as much as she is was the biggest cause of her miscarriage, and she sent a lot of vile texts and I replied to none of them. He also sent a number of them, which I documented with hers.
Serpents are just lizards that are mad that they don't have any limbs. That's why they're always so angry. But my therapist always says, something you're missing can make you who you are if you let it. And he's right, because they're missing limbs.
My parents came over to tell me about what happened and were shocked that I knew. They asked what I had said to my brother and wife. I told them nothing. I said I wasn't going to offer any sympathy to either of them after they did the dirty on me and fucked up mine and my kids' lives. My parents tried to talk about the loss and the baby and everything surrounding it, but I shut it down and told them I was not going to be their shoulder to cry on or listening ear. I said my wish not to hear anything about my brother or wife had not changed because they lost a baby. They left my house angry, and it took a couple of weeks for them to reach out again. They asked if I would be so rude to them again, and I said if they tried to talk about this, then yes.
You guys would hate crime documentaries. If you 2 saw how many plaintiffs didn't care when a defendant suffered, you would throw your dentures across the room.
They asked if I had reached out to my brother and wife, and I said no. They told me they had hoped to see me at the service, and I told them it wouldn't happen. They said I didn't need to become such a cold-hearted monster, and times like these is where you put away the hate. I don't agree, but I'm willing to entertain that maybe I'm wrong. AITA. I don't even think this is hate, or even like a grudge. I think this is keeping a healthy distance away from people who have traumatized you and your children. Because when you express empathy towards people like this, you're opening yourself up to become more hurt. You're telling your children, basically, that this level of insane behavior is okay. And you're giving the guilty party a chance to absolve themselves of any responsibility in this. Because that's what people like this are going to do. The second that they get some kind of empathy or kind of, well, at least this, or benefit of the doubt in any way, they're going to absolve themselves of a guilty conscience, and that's it. They haven't shown any remorse. In fact, they've blamed the original poster for it. So if he put any hate to the side, the ex-wife and the brother would be the first people to absolve themselves of a guilty conscience. So they're the last people that need empathy. And I also don't think it's fair at all for the wife to say that the miscarriage was due to not being able to see her children on a regular basis. It's temporary custody due to logistics. You cheated. You had an affair. It's not fair for the kids to have their entire lives uprooted because you want to cheat and then move 3 hours away. Verdict, you are not the a-hole. All right, I've got a few more Reddit stories for you. They're just a little bit different, and you have to click the little box in the top left-hand corner to hear them. This is what happens when you give nice guys and nice girls a chance. This is what happens. All right, that's my time. Toodles.